sitting here on the side of the road waiting on my daughter to get finished inside this little store, and I had some thoughts running through my head, and I remember when Cain killed Abel. A lot of people don't know this, but when you look deeply into the Hebrew text, Cain and Abel were twins by two different fathers. Okay, but you got to look at that from a spiritual standpoint. There was Jacob and Esau, the twins, and but there was Cain and Abel, and Cain killed Abel, and the blood of Abel was crying out. Remember, his blood was crying out, and it's written that the life force, the essence of a person, their life force is in the blood. And so when Jesus' blood was spilled there at the cross, it spilled onto the ground. And remember, he was crucified and buried at a place called Golgotha, the skull. It's the place of the skull. So whenever his blood, his life force spilled out onto the skull, you have to look at Cain and Abel like one person but two men. They're double-minded. You got the spiritual man and you got the carnal man. Remember, Cain got marked. He was a wanderer, and to wander means to be in error. And he killed his brother, the one who pleased God. Well, what pleases God? Those who worship in spirit and truth. And so his blood was crying out. So whenever the life force of Christ spilled out on the skull, remember Golgotha, the skull, it's your skull. So whenever that life force is poured out into your skull, the life force of Christ enters in, because the cross is it's embedded in the skull. So the blood runs down the cross inside. So whenever it says, wake, O sleep, arise from the dead, that once that stone is rolled away from the tomb, that's when you step out of darkness. But it is no longer you who live, but it's the life force of Christ within you who lives that rises from the dead. You're restored. You're no longer double-minded. Remember, you're no longer. It's no longer Cain and Abel. It's no longer Adam and Eve. Remember, God made two people out of one. He split them apart. You rejoin because Jesus is in the middle. He's the chief cornerstone that holds the two walls together. So that life force, the blood, the life force of Christ rises up, and that is the everything is restored. Anyway, just some thoughts I had. My mind is constantly seeking out answers and more spiritual understanding of things, and there's so much that there is to learn. And whenever I first started speaking about spiritual things, the rejection was so bad, because so many people are hung up in the Cain way of thinking, the carnal way of thinking. They're wandering in error, and they're worshiping in religious and in their truth. And once you start seeing things in the spirit, you'll start seeing everything as spiritual. I'm working on it. Not perfect by any means, but I'm so happy where my growth has brought me now. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. I love you all. God bless.